So this is the homepage of Qualtrics. When you first log in, and I think most of you have been able to go and click that tile in Okta and hit login. Um, but you should see when you first log in, you'll see an option to either log into Qualtrics or log into Digital Assist. So you have two options. You have either sign into Qualtrics or into Digital Assist. If you do sign into Qualtrics and you need to switch, you can just go to this waffle menu over here, and you can toggle between Qualtrics and Digital Assist. But we're going to start with Digital Assist so you can see kind of what we're collecting. And so one decision that we made, and one thing that you'll see during this demo, is we have two ways of looking at our website data. With Digital Assist, this is kind of a newer feature to Qualtrics, this whole view that I'm about to show you. And so as we're going through it, to be totally transparent, we're working on a few features that are coming. For example, the ability to use role-based access. And by role-based access, I mean that if you are DOT, when you go to this Digital Assist page, you will only see data for DOT. So that's something we're working on, and we kind of get around that by using the dashboards, which is what I'll be showing after Digital Assist. So keep that in mind. And in the meantime, you will be able to have access to all of the web pages across all of the state of Iowa.gov web pages. And so you'll see things like the set.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just want to jump in real quick and just clarify for the group. This is all, public information. There's no shared, PII or PHI amongst agencies, data that's collected in your survey tools as you start to build them. Is not shared in the same way. This only applies to the DX, and this was reviewed by the steering committee and a decision made to go ahead and proceed that gathering this data now, while Qualtrics is still working on that role-based access was more valuable, right, than not. So I just wanted to flag that. Sorry to interrupt, Hunter.
No worries. Good call out, Natalie. Yeah, you won't be seeing any survey data here. What we're collecting is things like they're more metadata type things. How long somebody spent on a page, how many times they had frustration signals. We'll talk about those a little bit. And that's the type of data that you're seeing here. And we won't talk too much about viewing sessions. You can view sessions. But what I want to show here, what's going to be very helpful are both funnels and heat maps. So we'll talk about these, and then we'll come back to some of these other data points that we're collecting. So let's start with heat maps. I have a few heat maps here that I've created. So I just went to the heat map tab over here. One that I was looking at earlier was this: how do I renew vehicle registration? So I'm going to click on this one. And while it's loading, I'll show you a few things that you're going to be able to see. You'll be able to toggle between seeing heat maps from users who were using a mobile device and heat maps from users who were using a desktop. I believe you have significantly more mobile views than you do desktop views, so we'll kind of start there, and we'll try to look at both. I want to, let's see, I have this click map selected here. And so if I'm looking at this page over here, and hopefully this is big enough, can everyone see this all right? Maybe blow it up a little bit, but I don't know how well that's going to work. You'll have to play with it a little bit on your own. But this is looking at a phone screen, so it's oriented vertically instead of horizontally since I'm on a computer. But I'll be able to see right here where people are clicking. So I can see there's a lot of concentration right here. This is kind of the number one thing that people are clicking on. And then secondly, they're clicking on this tax and tags system. So I can see where a lot of my click traffic is as I'm going through here. And then I can toggle over here to scroll map. And I can see where people are scrolling. 98.5% of visits make it to right here. And that makes sense. So people are not scrolling a ton on this page. I can see the average height of a page, and as I scroll down, I can see, okay, 72.8% of visitors make it to here. And by the time I get to the bottom, only 15.4% of visitors are actually making it to where these resources are. So this is just helpful for you to, if you notice that people aren't making it to a certain point in their online journey that you would like them to make it to. Maybe it's because we have our topics down here, or maybe we have our links down here, and people aren't quite making it that low. So that is our scroll map here. Let me show a few desktop versions. So I'm popping over to desktop. This one's a little bit bigger, so hopefully it's easier to see. This changes. Obviously, with the desktop, you can see our numbers are a little bit better because people have more on their screen, so they don't need to scroll as much, so they are seeing everything. So that's something to keep in mind. And let's pop over to the click map for that one. We can see a little bit of traffic in the search bar. People are going directly to that. And then again, both on desktop, people are going straight to this link. Create these heat maps over here, and I can go back to them. But if you, this is one that I was looking at earlier, but if you want to create a heat map for a new URL, just put in the URL right here and it'll take you to it. So let's talk about what those are real quick. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the dashboard, and we're not talking about the dashboard quite yet, but I do have the definitions right here. So I want to go through those definitions so that we're all on the same page as I'm going through the digital assist, and then again when we talk about the dashboard. So a rage click, that's going to be at least 4 consecutive clicks that are less than 200 pixels and 300 milliseconds apart. So obviously we can't tell how hard people are clicking, but we see that they're doing at least 4 consecutive clicks. That's about what we're able to gather. And so when we meet that criteria, that's flagged in our DXA or digital experience analytics. The other one that you'll see is a mouse thrash. That's going to be at least 3 sudden rapid movements where the pointer reaches a speed of 2 pixels per millisecond. So that would, I think you can see my mouse, but that would be something like this, where I'm moving my scroller around or something like that. Next is an error click. This is clicking an element that results in uncaught JavaScript error. And so if that error occurs within 50 to 50 milliseconds of a clip or 350 milliseconds of a finger tap, then it'll flag that as an error click. And then a dead click is just any click on a web button or a hyperlink that should have produced something that didn't. So it is a hyperlink or a button and nothing happened. So we'll talk about those and a bit of the nuances that we see. So for this page, maybe I want to go to error clicks. And this will show me I'm getting a lot of error clicks right here on this page. And so maybe I'll want to kind of explore what people are doing. Now, again, this is collecting data. We already have had, I believe we've had this on for about 2 weeks, and 1.4 million pages have been visited. And so 4 out of 1.4 million isn't too many. And so some of these might just be device issues. And when we get to the dashboard, we'll talk more about that. Same with dead click. I can look at here and see, all right, where are my dead clicks happening? Again, we'll save some of the rage click, error click, dead clicks for when we start talking about sessions. Okay, we'll pop over to funnels if there aren't any questions. I think the biggest thing with heat maps is we just want you to get in there and start playing around with it. Start seeing what you can find there. Everyone's going to have different pages that we're looking at. We, like I said, 1.4 million pages have been visited since we turned this on. So I obviously have not been through all 1.4 million pages to see what's happened for each session. So I'm excited to see what you guys uncover. So let's pop
question,
over.
Hunter. I do have a question from Sharice, and I Sharice, feel free to articulate. I know you have experience in this type of platform, so please feel free to unmute. But her question is, are rage clicks captured as on mobile as well? Can you explain how it works on mobile? I mean, obviously there's no cut. Can you?
Right. Sorry, I know that sounds like a dumb question. I understand that it's your finger, but I wasn't sure, like, if somebody just taps with their finger, is that considered a rage click or is that not captured? That's kind of my question. Sorry.
Good question. The same criteria follows for rage click as a rage tap. You'd have to have 4 consecutive taps, and that would be collected as well on a mobile device or something like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just was curious if it was only capturing when you're in desktop mode or if there was something being captured on a mobile device. So yeah, it sounds like all 4 of those. I know some of it's kind of weird because like mouse thrashing, you're not using a mouse on a mobile device, but I didn't know if you like are dragging your finger a bunch of times or doing things like that, if it's capturing data.
Yeah, I don't know if this one captures as much on a mobile device. That's a good question. I have seen some sessions where I can see like a finger movement, but at the same time, if you are on a mobile device, you're less likely to get a mouse thrash as a means of frustration. Maybe you're throwing your phone on the ground, which at that point we can't capture it. But yeah, mouse thrash is probably more for a desktop. There is a difference between mobile and desktop for this one, error click. The threshold is 50 milliseconds between a click and a JavaScript error, or if it's a finger tap, then they up it to 350 milliseconds. I don't know exactly why they did that. It must mobile phones must be it must be like a latency thing, something like that. But as far as differences between the two, that's the only one that's really called out. And then this one is just, like you said, more of a desktop thing, not so much mobile. But good question. And those are kind of small things, and you have to make some assumptions as you're looking at this data, you know, why the user may have done that. And you might find things that where you're like, I don't think this was a rage click. I think they, you know, were trying to click on these different links at the same time, and maybe it wasn't a rage click, but Qualtrics did pick it up. So again, we're just picking up based on these criteria. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the data. Any other questions? Okay. So when we're creating a funnel, I'll show you how to create one, and then I'll go into one that I created already. But you'll click on create a funnel. And basically what we're tracking is where people are falling off in their journey. And so I'm not as familiar with some of your pages, but think about a constituent that might need to maybe apply for a driver's license or something like that, where they will be seeing several different pages at a time. And so what you'll do is you'll click add step here, and I usually just go with enter single URL. I don't think we have, or you could define the URL criteria. I actually might recommend this more than just enter a single URL. And the reason I say that, if I just go enter a single URL, we might have iowa.gov, and then you have a lot of page anchors, I've noticed, throughout just throughout almost all your pages. If I click on something, it adds the hashtag kind of page anchor to it. And so we want to be able to include all of those. And so I actually recommend using this URL contains, and then maybe iowa.gov. Maybe it's iowa.dot.gov. I'm not quite sure on these URLs. I have one already created, but you'll add that, and then you'll say DOT homepage. You want to name this just so we know what we're talking about. In my example, I did step 1, step 2, step 3. But I kind of looking back, I thought, no, I would rather name it DOT homepage so I know what I'm talking about and I know exactly where people are falling off. So I'll put the criteria for the DOT homepage. URL contains that. And then for my next one, let's see. Maybe it's DOT driver's licenses. I'm not sure if this is the next one. Maybe it's just driver's license without schedule an appointment. And so I'll add this step, driver's licenses. And then I'll add my next step, define URL criteria, URL contains. And then maybe this one is driver's licenses / apply. I'll say application. Okay. I don't know if these are exact. I'm going to pop over to the one that I've already created. But you just build out the journey. You kind of have to tell Qualtrics where you expect people should be going throughout their journey. And then you'll click on this create funnel button. So I'm going to back out of this one. And we'll look at this one. I just did a 2-step funnel so you can kind of see what we're doing. It will show you by the end what percentage of users make it through your funnel. And a lot of this has to do with where your start point is. And so if my start point is maybe not iowadot.gov, maybe I made my start point iowa.gov, then I'm going to see a worse completion rate, because a lot of people who are going to iowa.gov might be going to DNR, or they might be looking for HHS. They might be looking for other things. So just be meaningful and cognizant of where you start your funnel. And then especially if you're kind of comparing numbers and seeing if you can get that completion rate to go up, I would at most just keep it consistent. That's what we're looking for, is consistency. Because these numbers are going to be very relative depending on your agency, depending on how many pages people have to click, and depending on kind of how many branches you have. So you'll want to start where the process should be starting. So this one starts at the DOT homepage rather than iowa.gov, but maybe there's a better starting place, right? So it'll tell you how many sessions started that funnel and the median time to complete this funnel. So I just went from one page to another. If I add more pages, let's say I have 6, you'll be able to see where those drops are. And then you'll be able to see, okay, on this first page, 0.5% of people exhibited some sort of a frustration marker. So that's going to be a mouse thrash, a rage click, error click, one of those that we talked about earlier. And it's going to tell you how many people dropped off. So again, as I'm looking at this, maybe Iowa DOT homepage wasn't a great place to start. And maybe I want to see where my people are coming in, looking for driver's licenses. Maybe they're Googling Iowa DOT driver's license and they're starting kind of in a different place. And then I can start looking at their journey and seeing where that drop-off point is. So funnels, kind of like Heatmaps, a lot of it is playing around with it. Once you get your funnel set up, trying to keep it consistent so that you can view differences in those numbers. But it's a cool tool to see where people are dropping off and seeing where you can maybe look at different links to make it easier for people to use. So when we go back into Qualtrics, and you'll see when I was in Digital Assist, I can click that waffle menu and switch back over into Qualtrics. So I'll switch back into Qualtrics. Once Jade and I have shared these dashboards with everybody, some of you might have it, but some of you don't have it, you'll see a folder called DXA Demo. And within this folder, DXA Demo, if you're not seeing it on let me go back to my homepage. I want to make sure you're all able to find it. If you're not seeing it over here, these are my recently visited projects over here. So if you go to this hamburger menu, waffles and hamburgers. I didn't eat lunch today, so maybe I need to change the names for these. But I'm going to pop over to projects over here. And you should see this DXA demo. It's a folder. It has this purple icon right here. You can click this drop down and you'll see the dashboards that are associated with it. Once you do receive access, you will be able to see Iowa Online Feedback Dashboard and Iowa Digital Experience Analytics Dashboard. So you'll have 2. I have 3 because we had some test ones like that, but you will have 2 when you have this. So the first one I want to show, let's hop into the Iowa Digital Experience Analytics dashboard. When you hop in here, this is where we've taken everything in the Digital Assist view. So they're simply just different views. Digital Assist allows you to look at those funnels and the heat maps. And then eventually, like I said, you'll be able to you do role-based access and be able to see everything that I'm about to show you in this dashboard. You'll be able to see it in Digital Assist as well. But in the meantime, we separated them out so that we can do role-based access, and so that you can filter down by URLs, and so that if you're in DAS, you're seeing the DAS pages. If you're in DOT, you're seeing the DOT pages. Let me refresh this because it's sitting there loading. Okay. So you'll see a few widgets on here. We have those definitions again. And then we start with total frustration signals. And mine is currently showing data across all pages. Again, when you see yours, you'll see a little icon up here that says DAS or DOT. It'll show right there, and it'll narrow these down. Just so you know, if you ever do have a page, if you're looking at a certain URL that nobody's visited, then you'll see an error message right here that says no data found. That doesn't mean the dashboard's not working. It just means that there's no data there. So it's actually working exactly as it should. So in the past 30 days, or I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks since we've turned this on, we've had 680,000 total sessions. Of those sessions, 40,000 of them were impacted with some sort of a frustration signal, whether that's an error click, a dead click. And again, not all of these are frustration signals, right? Some of them are false positives, which means 5.94% of everyone is exhibiting some sort of a frustration signal. I like to see that below 5%. And so you'll see this is a gauge chart. And so anything in the, actually I need to swap these colors. I just realized that. But anything below this should be green. This middle one should be orange, between 5 and 10%. And then anything above that, if we're seeing anything above 10%, then that means that there's probably something going on that's causing people to get either frustrated or click on a lot of error clicks. So 5.9, we're probably fine. Like I said, there are some false positives, so I don't feel too bad about that. But once you do filter this down and you are just looking at your own agency, if you're seeing this at like 12, 13%, then we might want to start digging in and seeing what's going on. What are people clicking on that are dead clicks? Total pages visited. This is where I got that 1.4 million number. This is number of pages, so that means I guess we can do the math. People are visiting on average just over 2 pages, 2.5 pages each time they go to iowa.gov. And then number of frustration signals. So this is a little bit different. This is number of sessions that had a frustration signal. And then this is total number of frustration signals. So you know, some people, I've seen some people on here, they already have like 80 frustration signals. I've gone in and I've watched some of the sessions, and we'll do a session replay so you can see it. And I swear some of them are just some kid playing on an iPad. And so it's picking up all these frustration signals. That's why there's like 80 of them, which is good to know. I wouldn't focus on your outliers like that. I would focus on kind of the median group. And then this is just hopefully something helpful. Average frustration signals per page. So for every page that I'm on, there's about a 0.04% chance that I'm going to have there's a 4% chance. This is a full number. This is a average frustration per page. But yeah, about a 4% chance that I'll have a frustration signal, whereas this is by the entire session. Okay, so let's pop down here. This is just a chart that I created that hopefully is helpful. It only shows sessions that were that had a frustration signal in it. And you can filter these. So if you're interested in looking at error clicks, you can just click on this error click and oops, that's 0. This will show you the top ones. This is the kid on the iPad situation. 470 error clicks. They're probably just clicking everywhere. You can take a look at it, but you might not find anything that helpful. But I'm seeing that on this page, I'm not seeing any other dead clicks or rage clicks or mouse thrashes. You'll see a lot here. This is every single session. And you can see I have 1,000 pages. So you'll definitely want to use the ordering mechanisms that we have over here and choose kind of what you think is the most helpful. So let's put a pin in this one, and then we'll talk about replay links in a second, because in order to help you understand which URLs you should be looking at, you can scroll down here, and I have your top URLs with the most error clicks. Again, as you filter down, right now we're seeing DOC, we're seeing DOT, we're seeing DOM, and DPS. So as you filter down, this will actually adjust and show just the top 5 URLs for DOT, if you're DOT, right? So this will automatically filter, and then that's where you can kind of start. So I'll say, okay, this is my #1 problematic URL when it comes to error clicks. This is my #1 problematic URL when it comes to dead clicks. So just to help you be able to focus, instead of looking at every single heat map for every single URL, you'll probably want to use this in tandem with your heat maps. And then we have rage clicks and mouse thrashes down here as well. Okay, so let's look at a replay link. I'm gonna just choose one at random. Who knows what we'll get? But you have the replay link right here, and then the URL for what they're looking at. So we're just gonna look at State Library of Iowa. I'm gonna click on this. This brings me to what is looking like a video player. And so it's going to show me different sessions that are happening. So what has happened is we're looking at where people are clicking, but we've masked it, and then recreated the page on top of where they clicked. So we know where they're clicking, but we've masked things like if they put any text in, you won't be able to see any text that people have entered. You won't be able to see any background websites. You won't be able to see, if they're on a phone, any notifications come in. You can only see, we're only able to capture what has been happening on the State of Iowa websites. And so I'll go through some of these, and I'll maybe look at some of these sessions, and you can move this around, and you'll see these dots right here. It'll put a dot wherever there was an issue. So I'm going to rewind a little bit, and it looks like when they clicked on this, they got a few error clicks. So I'll keep watching and see if there's anything I can kind of really find. It looks like this resource one, for whatever reason, they had an error. So maybe I have some questions like, all right, this is a lot of error clicks to go through. And this one looks like a mobile device. Maybe I'm more interested in seeing desktop error clicks to help me find what's actually wrong. So I'm going to close out of that tab. And up top, at the top of our dashboard, you'll see that we have some filters here. So I can click on this device filter. And I can say, okay, only show me desktop sessions where it's a desktop. It'll load, and now I can see, okay, that 471 was a phone because it went away, and now I'm looking just at a desktop. You'll also be seeing more mouse thrashes if it is a desktop. So now I can go in here and look at some of these session replays. So let's fast forward here a little bit. We have one coming up at 3 minutes and 11 seconds. We can see. So when they clicked on that state budget, I've looked at a couple, and I've seen that some of the page anchors are triggering errors. So if you see that, just keep that in mind. I've seen that a few times. So hopefully we can kind of wade through some of those page anchors. And I've also actually mentioned that to our engineering team. I said, hey, for whatever reason, Iowa's page anchors are throwing an error. Is there a way we can cut those out? And that's one thing we are working on. So if you do see a page anchor throwing an error click, not all of them do, but some of them do. There's an example of the masking. So they started searching something and we can't see exactly what they're searching. But you can go through this, kind of take a look at what people are doing. If you see a session that's especially riddled with error clicks and you don't think it's an iPad kid, then you can start looking at them. Looks like right here is where they did that mouse thrash. Oh, and you saw it for just a second. So they were probably just maybe either waking up their computer right there. Oh, that was another one. We saw that they were moving around and then they had a bigger mouse thrash. So maybe they're getting frustrated, but we're also 18 minutes into the session. So some of these you might just say, I'm going to disregard this one. And you can also, I'm going to exit out of this one. I'll add some more filters up here. One I just thought of just now was session length. Maybe I don't want to look at any sessions that are longer than 20 minutes because that's just going to, maybe it's somebody who just fell asleep at their keyboard or something. So we'll add more filters at the top, but things that you do have as far as filters are desktop, mobile, browser type. This one's really helpful. I can also add browser type right here so that you know, like when you watch the replay, you know what browser they're on. I'll add that as well. I have a couple things I do want to add. So I can see Chrome, what version of Chrome they are, Edge, looks like there's an Apple one, couple Firefox, Safari. So yeah, there's a lot we can look at here. I'm going to clear these out. I can also look at date if I want to look at yesterday or the past week, or a custom date range. I can do that. Or I can look at a specific URL. Just search in the URL and you'll be able to filter if there's one you want to see there. Continuing down, another widget that we thought would be helpful is the top 10 error click messages. And so you'll see we are picking up a lot of those anchor items. And so that is another thing, even though we're picking up those anchor items, that's another filter I can add where you just remove this anchor item option. So I'll get that added as well. And maybe we just move on to the second one. Resize observer loop completed with undelivered notification. I don't quite know what that means, but we've seen 13,000 error messages being thrown that say that. You guys might know more than me as you're looking at this. Some of these might be more familiar to you, but these are the error messages that we're receiving. And then lastly, down here we have some visitor statistics. So again, iOS undefined is our most commonly used one. We have, of all of our visits, 440,000 sessions that were mobile and only 237,000 that were desktop. So yeah, we have definitely a super majority of mobile users. Our top browser types over here looks like Safari. And then there's traffic by day. And just be mindful of this. This is when we turned it on. We turned it on August 21st. You can see where it really jumps up. These were kind of our pilot session where we only had it on for a handful of pages, but you'll be able to see the traffic. Again, I think our pilot pages were DAS and DOM. And so if you're not DAS or DOM, your line will start right here. So it'll be a little bit more consistent so you can see that traffic as you're going through. So it looks like, yeah, it's been interesting to see on the weekends. There's always a drop every weekend consistently. So the other one is the Iowa Online Feedback Dashboard. So up until now, we have been talking about data that we have collected just in the background, so it's unsolicited feedback is maybe how we would define it. A lot of these users might not even know that we were looking at their session, though they it is in the legalese of the web page that you can, and it's all masked and safe. But now we're looking at actual solicited feedback. These users know that they are giving us feedback. And so if we go to, I'm going to go to iowa.gov. I think a lot of you have already seen this already, but we have this give feedback tab. And depending on where you're accessing it, it will say either iowa.gov or Iowa or DNR, Iowa, whatever your agency label is, your logo gets adjusted. They're asked how satisfied you were with your website experience. So you'll put in a number, 0 through 5. Did you find what you were looking for? If I say no, it prompts me and says, well, what were you looking for? Also, additionally, if I say 3 or below, it asks me what could be improved, and I can put in my thoughts right here. And then, so that's just a quick recap. I think most of you have seen that already. Up until now, we have been talking about data that we have collected just in the background, so it's unsolicited feedback is maybe how we would define it. A lot of these users might not even know that we were looking at their session, though it is in the legalese of the web page that you can, and it's all masked and safe. But now we're looking at actual solicited feedback. These users know that they are giving us feedback. And so if we go to, I'm going to go to iowa.gov. I think a lot of you have already seen this already, but we have this give feedback tab. And depending on where you're accessing it, it will say either iowa.gov or Iowa or DNR, Iowa, whatever your agency label is, your logo gets adjusted. They're asked how satisfied you were with your website experience. So you'll put in a number, 0 through 5. Did you find what you were looking for? If I say no, it prompts me and says, well, what were you looking for? Also, additionally, if I say 3 or below, it asks me what could be improved, and I can put in my thoughts right here. And then, so that's just a quick recap. I think most of you have seen that already.
You should be, excuse me, you should be able to find a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay.
Apply food or copy that link in the chat. Either way, it works. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. Can you see this, everyone? Okay. So I'm going to go down here. Here it is. Was this helpful? Thumbs up or thumbs down? If I say thumbs down, it'll ask, how can we improve this page? And I can either I can submit nothing, or I can submit an answer. So that's just a recap on what that was. Always in my way. Okay. So one of the things we asked were, did you complete your task? Yes, no, or still working on it. So this just gives me a breakdown when people are filling this out. Now keep in mind, with Digital Assist, we were looking at everybody, so there was no real bias in who we were targeting. With solicited feedback, there usually is a bias. You get people who are very happy with the website, who want to tell you all about how great it is, and we like those people. And then you get people who are very angry, and they want to tell you about your website too. So you kind of get the extremer views when we're looking at solicited feedback, not so much on DXA. So this is actually pretty good. 44%, almost 45% saying, yes, I did complete my task. So that's good, because again, we have a little bit of a bias there where mostly people just want to complain. But it's all relative. At the end of the day, this is all relative. So what we really want to see here is over time how that happens. And one thing that I really like about Qualtrics is we can add whatever widgets we want. So we'll start here with a benchmark, and then in a few months down the road, you might see a new widget on your dashboard that's more of a timeline, so you can see, okay, is this improving or are we dropping? But we got to start somewhere, so this is all of our baseline data. Another widget we have down here is their satisfaction. They got to rate 1 to 5 stars. So their satisfaction based on whether they were able to complete their task or not. And as you might guess, people who were able to complete their task mostly rated 5s. I have a lot of people who said yes over here. And then people who were not able to complete their task, a lot of them said no. So this one, no surprises there, right? We all expect that if you weren't able to complete your task, then you probably rated us a 1. And then over here, this is the average. Sorry, this is titled wrong. This is, I think I need to refresh this page because I did change that title. Okay, this is your average rating. And so on average of these 1 to 5, we're getting 2.9 stars. I like to see it at about 3. That's kind of the benchmark for government. And so we're really close. This is great. This means there's room for improvement. And so again, as we start adding more timeline type widgets as we move on, then we'll see an improvement there, and we'll hopefully get into the green. And then collectively, if we have other goals, maybe it's 3.5 is the goal, then we can move these benchmarks as well. And then over here, we have some comments. What could be improved? So you'll find, again, there's some bias in this question. This question is going to people who only rated it 1 to 3. So we're not asking the people who gave us 4 or 5 stars what could be improved. We're only asking this question to 1, 2, or 3 stars, which means we anticipate getting a lower sentiment score. And so what we've done is we've taken all of their text entry answers and we've assigned them a sentiment score between -2 and +2. So -2 means that I'm furious, I'm just yelling about the situation, and +2 means that I'm overly satisfied, I'm very happy with what's happening. And then we've taken all of those answers, assigned a sentiment, and then averaged them, and we get a -1. And so that's actually not bad for government, and for the fact that we have a lot of bias in this question, and we're only asking our more negative people. So this is actually pretty good. But again, it's all relative. We want to see improvement. And so we'll start. You can look at some of these answers. Viewer discretion is advised, I guess I would say, for some of these. Again, we're collecting answers from anyone, and they're anonymous. So, this one's not that bad. I don't think. I think I made sure I wouldn't see anything too bad, but this is live. Answers are coming in. So stop violating constitutional protections. Oh, great. Once we narrow this down and look at a specific department, then we'll know exactly what they're talking about, but I could just look at a filter if I needed to. So as you narrow it down, this will be more specific. Any questions about the feedback tab before I hop over to the thumbs up, thumbs down data?
I know, and I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention as well because I'm trying to do multiple things. But the question we got is, are the dashboards for all state government or individual sites? I think maybe you want to talk about how they only see their own.
Yes.
You want to talk about the role base, like you're showing all right now, I'm assuming. Can you talk a little bit about that so they know what to expect when you get all those users set up?
Yeah, for both the feedback dashboard and the DXA. So we have two different things again going on, frustration signals, unsolicited feedback, and solicited feedback. For both of these, on my view, I am seeing across the entire state. When you get to your view, Jessica's given me a list of all of the URLs. So I know, let's see, educate.iowa is for DOE. And I've kind of spliced it out, and I've said, okay, if your URL contains educate.iowa, and then there could be a ton of other things after that. It could be all of your other pages, and even page anchors might get thrown in there. But as long as it contains educate.iowa, and Jessica's given me all the parameters for everyone, then it'll narrow it down to just those pages. So let me let me kind of show an example real quick. This is not what you might normally see, but I'll call this the DOE filter just so we can see what you might be seeing. Let's see, make sure we get the right one here. Contains educate.iowa. So if you're DOE, you'll see a DOE up here when you log in. You won't have to add this filter. Again, this is just because this is my view. And you saw before we had 680,000 odd sessions. But then for when I filter down just for DOE, I see, okay, there's 44,000 sessions, 111,000 of my DOE pages have been visited. Does that answer that question? Okay, last thing, moving down to the thumbs up, thumbs down. This one does look a little clunky looking at it in aggregate. This is every page where we have assigned a thumbs up, thumbs down. And actually, some have gotten a lot more traffic than others, so it is kind of interesting looking at it in aggregate like this. It looks like our driver's licenses is getting a lot of visits, which makes sense. So here's all of our thumbs up, thumbs down data. When yours is filtered down, you will only see the thumbs up, thumbs down that apply to you. And then again, this is just if thumbs up is green, thumbs down is orange. So you'll be able to see the performance of each page. And then over here, how can we improve this page? These ones are really nice. You'll see a couple of items here. I can see the person's actual response. This is what they said. And then I can see what page they were on. So I know kind of what they're talking about. That's the URL that they had visited. And then up top where it says response needed, this is just Qualtrics has the ability to look at what they're saying and kind of identify what the actionability of it is. And so this person is saying, have a real ID and just need to update driver's license. What do you need to bring? So they're asking you a question. They're not telling you what you need to improve. And so that, isn't the best place for them to ask that question. This is the feedback spot. But we want to use that feedback. So if I'm seeing that people are asking this question a lot and I'm seeing the words response needed, that's Qualtrics tagging it saying, hey, response is needed here. Well, I can't respond. This is an anonymous thing. But if I'm starting to see that I get a lot of response needed type questions, like this person is saying, how much is it? They're asking a question. They're not giving us feedback. Then, okay, maybe I either need to A, answer that question somewhere on my page, or B, provide somewhere on that page for people to contact me to ask those questions. And then the options are either response needed, suggestions on what you could do better, other, and then I saw, let's see, there's one other one. If they type just gibberish or something like no, that's a not meaningful message, so it will mark it as not a meaningful message. So that's another filter that we'll have up top if you want to filter out all the not meaningful message. Haven't added it yet. Like I said, this is kind of a growing process because as the data comes in, they inform us on how we want to build the dashboard. Do we want to add more timelines? Do we need to filter these out? And so that's where we'll appreciate some of your suggestions as we move through this. So that's the dashboard. That's thumbs up, thumbs down here, and feedback up here. And then the digital analytics, clicks and things like that are on the other dashboard, Iowa Digital Experience Analytics. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions?